I'm always striving for complete honesty, so here's some complete honesty. This video was originally going to be something completely different, a much bigger endeavor, one that I already took part in and have since just scrapped. Originally, this was going to be a video in which I, Lily, lifelong Toy Story fan, ranked every Toy Story character ever. So I did the ranking. In fact, I filmed an entire 3-hour-long video. That's what this wrist just told me just now. So it didn't work out, but we move regardless. I realized the things I really wanted to say with that video are things I could just say in like a different video, and that the ranking itself was a whole bunch of mumbo jumbo and just wasting time. I thought I was using it as a framing device to sort of like metatextually break the mold of the ranking video and then like get into the nitty gritty of what this franchise meant to me, but it was a waste of time for me, for you, and everyone else who matters. So here we are. Plan B. This is a Toy Story video. I don't really know what it is beyond that, but I'm going to let myself talk about this franchise that I love so deeply, and heaven knows it's gonna branch off on tangents because that's what I do. But there is a point with this. There is a message at the end of this long, colorful plastic tunnel that we will be exploring today. First of all, so good to be back. I'm so happy to be back making a YouTube video. Hope you like the setup. It's what's the word? Bohemian. I'm gonna use this bit a lot because it feels really cool, but I'm not like committed enough to wear it for the entire video. I feel like it adds some swag, but also removes a little. It's a complicated balance. So in order to truly understand and deconstruct my relationship with the Toy Story franchise, you have to understand the role it played in my childhood. Like many other early aughts children and, you know, late 90s, I grew up with these films. I was born into a world in which Toy Story was already a beautiful duology. And this copy specifically of Toy Story 1 and 2 was what shaped my childhood into what it was, more than really honestly any other film. I adored these movies. On the surface, the reasons are obvious. They're incredibly entertaining, very colorful and bright. They truly capture the imaginations of kids and adults alike. I loved it for all of these reasons, but if I may be so brave as to claim, I love Toy Story on a level more intellectual than the average child. I think one of the things that I really gravitated towards in these films was their existentialism. And the moment Buzz realizes he's a toy and has a complete mental breakdown, to the When She Loved Me segment of Toy Story 2 and Woody's dilemma with whether or not to return home to Andy because of the inevitable end of his time with him. These were the deep philosophical questions that little Lily couldn't help but wrap her arms around. I've always been someone who has questioned the meaning of life, why we're here, what I am to be as a person and what I'm not to be. I grew up in a Christian household. It was never really shoved down my throat or whatever, but on a daily basis, I was reminded of the scope of this universe that I was birthed into and my supposed role in it. A vague but promising call to something bigger, and I just like never bought into it. Like I don't think I'm better or worse because of that. I just, for whatever reason, Christianity never clicked with me, and it would take me years to discover that like I have actual genuine problems with the religion and to eventually declare myself a staunch atheist or maybe an agnostic on a good day. But being in a religious household certainly shaped a big part of me and created in my head a bunch of complexes and worldviews and a moral compass that, while well-intentioned, obviously I grew to realize was severely flawed. Throughout late elementary school all the way until high school, I had what I would call a savior complex. At the time, I described it as a Luke Skywalker complex because I thought it made me sound cooler. But really what I was doing is I was entering every relationship in my life, romantic, platonic, otherwise, with this backwards notion that I needed to save people. And not in the sense of bringing them to Christianity and saving them this way, but instead, I just thought my sheer existence in the lives of others would be enough to inspire them to grow as people. And yeah, okay, maybe that is the point of knowing people. Maybe that's one of the many points of life itself. Maybe I was kind of onto something, but I don't think it would shock you to say that this can very quickly become incredibly unhealthy. I didn't realize it at the time, but what I was really doing here was removing myself from the equation because I had so much baggage to work through myself. My well-intentioned urge to help others was actually a cry for help, a coping mechanism. I know what you're wondering. What the hell does this have to do with Toy Story? We're getting there, okay? Just trust me, look at me. Trust me. By the time I was in high school, the entire original Toy Story trilogy was completed, and I loved all 3 of them to death. In fact, I was young enough when Toy Story 3 came out that I really did feel like I grew up with the entire trilogy. But, and here's the kicker, promise me you won't click off after I say this, what I mostly want to talk about today is Toy Story 4. I know, put down your pitchforks, please, for the love of God, please. But it is within this 4th chapter that I really found some revolutionary truth out about who I was as a person, and began to rework the fiber of who I was as a person for the better. Toy Story 4 gets a lot of flack amongst fans, amongst casual audience members. While it isn't maybe as divisive amongst the mainstream audiences as some online communities would have you believe, it still is quite easily the most controversial Toy Story film. And as a diehard enjoyer of The Last Jedi, I was already well accustomed with defending a movie that the fandom of a franchise didn't like by the time that Toy Story 4 rolled around. So I really wasn't troubled by other people not liking it. And the way it moved me to tears, to action, to a reconstruction of the self was irreplaceable, and I will never not love it for that. This is the power of film. This is the power of narrative. This is the power of story, art itself. There's become a tangled mess, and I understand this is not relevant. I genuinely don't understand how this happened because both ends of the cord are plugged in. How did this happen? Anyway, as I was saying, Toy Story 4 didn't change me per se. I'm giving it a lot of credit right now, or at least I was in the way I was describing it, but it did give me something of a map. Lots of films have done this for me, and it's not particularly special for that. My love of the franchise stretches far beyond what it did for high school Lily and her savior complex, because also this is a theme that has followed me into adulthood, something I still struggle with deeply. Not the savior complex thing, but what Woody deals with in the film. And it ultimately circles back to the battle between selfishness and selflessness. Where do they meet in the middle? Where does one become the other? Can they coexist? Should they? These are the questions that have haunted me my entire freaking life. And these are the questions that I hope to address today. Toy Story, am I right? One of the biggest critiques of Toy Story 4 revolves around the conclusion, the way it seemingly shrugs off the perfect ending that Toy Story 3 offered. And look, I'm not gonna argue with that. Toy Story 3 did have the perfect ending for Toy Story 3. And if the franchise had ended there, yeah, it would have also been a perfect ending for the franchise. But was Toy Story 4 worth it? Yes. And Toy Story 5 is a little bonus as well, like sure. But I am one of those people that thinks that the ending of Toy Story 4 is better than Toy Story 3. Now, the scene itself, maybe not as climactic, maybe not as moving. There's something so expertly done about the ending to Toy Story 3, and as much as Toy Story 4's ending carries emotion, it doesn't really hit that same way in isolation. But what this scene represents for the franchise, for the film itself, and for Woody as a character, that's what I love. In the first 3 Toy Story films, we see Woody choose Andy over everything. For lack of a better term, Andy's his god. Or, in another way, there's a level of serial monogamy here. Obviously not in a romantic context, but insofar as Andy is Woody's world. No one else matters, not even Woody matters. Woody is a means to an end. His entire purpose, his entire reason for being here is to make Andy happy. Not just any kid, Andy. Of course, we see the shift by the end of Toy Story 3. He realizes that maybe there is a life after love, and he finds new purpose in Bonnie. Anticlimactically, at the beginning of Toy Story 4, we see Bonnie has tossed Woody aside. This is a little annoying as an audience member, but do we blame Bonnie? No, we don't blame Bonnie. Some of us do, because some of us are insane, but we should not blame Bonnie in this situation. She's a kid, and in the long run, it's what's best for Woody. Because yeah, he learned to let go of Andy. He learned to open his heart to a new kid, but he never really learned to love himself. I know, it's like sappy, it's whatever. Oh yeah, love yourself, whatever, but they're toys, like just do the thing. Again, not a story that is like necessary in the sense where the franchise suffered without it, but one that I think adds so many wonderful layers of subtext and one that continues to move me. Some people mistakenly view Toy Story 4 as just being about the love between Woody and Bo. Yes, Bo Peep is the catalyst for getting Woody to take his own needs seriously, but Woody doesn't just leave the gang for Bo because of Bo. It's because being a lost toy is what feels most naturally to him. Yes, Bo introduced him to that world, and again, serves as the biggest motivating factor for him taking that leap, but the film is not making Woody choose between the gang and Bo Peep, at least beyond the surface level. It's a choice between being there for one specific kid or being there for lots. Further, being there for yourself, giving yourself the freedom to live a life beyond your predestined career, a life that does enable room for love, deeper friendship, A life that you can only claim as your own when you're strong enough to give yourself the agency to take it. Earlier, I described Woody's behavior in the first 3 Toy Story films as being this selfless love of Andy. But if you know these films as well as I do, you know it is not that simple. In fact, I would describe Woody in the original Toy Story film specifically as unbearably selfish. Now, as we'll discuss soon, I don't think selfishness is an inherently bad thing, but in this instance, in the instance of Toy Story 1, where Woody is breaking apart the hierarchy, tearing at the seams of the society of Andy's room, knocking Buzz out the damn window, taking things just a little bit too far. Like, calm down. It's incredibly entertaining, and it's one of the reasons the first film is so endearing. But again, it's a little hard to watch, and it's very jarring to go back to after you watch the subsequent films and really compare the type of person Woody is in the later films to the type of person he was here. And this is where we get to the toxic side of selfishness. It's good to do things for yourself, to prioritize your needs and your desires. But when you get all sneaky with it and try and pass it off as, oh, I'm just doing this because I just love this person so much, that's when you've crossed a line. That's when you're Woody. In Toy Story, Woody tries to argue that every choice he's making is for the good of Andy, when that is oh so clearly not the case. He's doing this for himself. He wants Andy's attention. I know I don't have to explain this to you. It's a movie that preschoolers can understand, even on an emotional level, I would argue. At least if they're as intellectually ahead of the times as I was. But do you see where there's this interesting shift here? Acting out of true selfishness, out of spite, and propping it up as a set of choices that are being made for the greater good. This is what I did all the time when I was in my savior complex era. And it's really shameful to admit. I'm a very transparent woman. I will tell you anything. You, specifically, anything. But it's really hard to dig through this stuff. To admit the type of person I was when I was a kid, yes, a teenager or a young adult, but it's important to admit that this is where I came from, especially because it plants the seeds for the type of person I am now, which is someone who is terrified of being selfish. Around a year ago, my therapist, my previous therapist, mentioned to me that basically every single thing I was coming to talk to her about in my emotional life, in my everyday life, every element of it, tied back into selfishness. She saw in me a girl who was desperate to be told at all times that what she was doing wasn't selfish, because I did feel like every single choice I had ever made was selfish and that I had to repay the world for that. I remember growing up as a kid who was constantly told that she was needy. Maybe not verbatim, definitely not verbatim, but through a variety of words. I was picky in the food department and otherwise. I always wanted to do what I wanted to do, and this took priority over what the other kids in my life wanted to do. I was in charge of playtime. I was the Woody of every Andy's room that I entered, and the word that I did hear very often was whiny. I internalized this deeply. Not at the time. At the time, I just shrugged it off. I really couldn't care less. Who cares what the adults think of me? Like, I want to do what I want to do, so I'm gonna do it. I envy that level of agency that I had as a kid. I'm learning it again, slowly but surely, but I still trip over myself making sure I'm not being selfish. Of course, this came back in a huge way when I was undergoing the early stages of my transition. I didn't think there was anything more selfish than putting a halt to the lives of all those around me and asking them to rearrange the words they used to refer to me, the way they understood me, the space I took up. I was asking them to relearn me as a person. Maybe not to start from scratch, but to toss a lot of things out at will whenever I felt like saying, oh, can you adjust this? Oh, that's not actually who I am. Correction, correction, correction. Asterisk, asterisk, asterisk. At all times. I felt obnoxious. Of course, I understand now that's not true at all. It was a necessity. It was survival. It still is. And it comes from a deep need to be understood. A human need that, at times, feels very selfish. Parentheses, negative context. Because, yeah, selfishness isn't always evil. In fact, it rarely is. When you're honest about your wants and your needs and your desires, that, I think, is never a bad thing. Of course, it gets complicated based on the way you react to whether or not you get those things. That can be a problem. But admitting it, asking for permission, or just doing things regardless with a fair amount of consideration for the ways it will harm others is fine, is good. And also, define harm others. If it's going to make other people uncomfortable, that's one thing. If it's going to hurt other people, deeply hurt, irreplaceably hurt, if it's something they're never going to be able to get over, take that with more seriousness. But when we're talking about the other category where it's just going to weird people out or be difficult for them to process emotionally, like, yeah, okay, it's going to hurt. But when you need these things, when you need to transition, when you need to tell them some deep truth about yourself, gender or otherwise, you need to tell them. Or again, do the thing for yourself. I've done a lot of that in my life in the past decade. First, I came out as bisexual. Then I came out as trans. Then I came out as actually I'm a lesbian. I've disclosed to many people that I don't hold the religious beliefs that I was taught to believe as a child. Far from it. I've expanded my political worldviews, and I've discussed that with people who don't agree with me. I've come out of all of these metaphorical closets. There's things I haven't disclosed. The fact that I'm poly, even something like that I'm not sure I will ever actively make a part of my life, it's still a part of me. And I've learned that there's nothing worse than keeping those things inside. Like, nothing. It hurts to say it sometimes, these things. It hurts to rip off the Band-Aid with a bunch of new people, but there is no greater feeling than when time passes and you realize it was one of the best decisions you've ever made. Again, for me, my transition was one of those decisions. Kind of the decision. Like, this is everything to me, and I don't regret it for even a moment. Even if there's parts of how it went down that weren't ideal, I don't regret this. I'm alive because of this. And I don't mean that I'd be like literally dead without this, although I might be. I mean that I certainly wasn't living before this. Not really. For all of these reasons, and due to my God-given empathy, I've always rooted for Woody in this moment when he finally takes what he's needed all along. When I was rewatching the original Toy Story for the first time after watching Toy Story 4, I noticed one specific moment where Woody and Buzz are lost at the Dynaco gas station, where Woody laments being a lost toy. And other than being one of many iconic line reads from Tom Hanks in that film, this is a moment where we see Woody at pretty much his lowest. This is his worst nightmare. The only thing worse than being replaced by Buzz is losing Andy and his life entirely, or at least his understanding of what his life and existence is. Being a lost toy is Woody's biggest fear, and by the end of the fourth film, he has chosen that for himself. That is insane character development, and it's one of the most exciting things to witness on screen. Sometimes, the thing we run from most, we run from for a very specific reason. Woody seems to feel stressed in this role as being Andy's everything. I think that's something that people kind of gloss over. I think it's something Woody glosses over. Yes, he loves Andy. Yes, he loves being there for Andy. He loves nothing more. But it is not exactly a healthy relationship when he loses his mind the way he does in Toy Story 1, the second he's not Andy's everything. This is what Woody needed all along. We see that pan out even further when we see what him and Bo are up to in Toy Story 5. I was super excited to see them address this, even minorly, and show how things were going with their, like, saving lost toys shtick. Woody is loving it. Even if people are giving him a hard time for aging, like, he is living. He went through his midlife crisis, he bought the damn car or whatever, and now he's living a better life because of it. I think one of the most central themes of the Toy Story franchise is change. A change in hierarchy in Toy Story 1, a change in worldview in Toy Story 2, a change in living situation, career, family, whatever you want to call leaving Andy behind and finding Bonnie in Toy Story 3. And I think the most interesting thing about Toy Story 4's representation of change is that the only change that takes place is change that Woody actively chooses. First and foremost, sacrificing his voice box. And secondly, sacrificing the only life he's ever known. For himself, yes, but it's a sacrifice nonetheless. It's bravery. It's a willingness to change. That's what Woody's run from forever. And here he is choosing it willingly, excitedly. It's beautiful. It's so freaking beautiful. Like I said, this video was originally intended to be a ranking of every Toy Story character ever. If you're curious about my list, here it is. I'll let it roll on screen. You're looking at it right now. It's a really long list. It's like really long. Believe it or not, I found like at least something sort of to say about every single one of these, but not some of them, not so much. Anyway, that's the ranking. Within that ranking video, I started to break the immersion, and this was the plan. I wanted to break through the barrier of what makes a ranking video and start sharing autobiographical tidbits about my life. My relationship with art, with gender, with my family, with religion, with what Toy Story meant to me, with what was happening in my life, and with what it feels like to pick YouTube up again after such a long absence. This thing that I did growing up from the age of 10 until around 20, fairly consistently, as someone sort of different, sort of the same. I knew what it meant for the other guy to make a YouTube video, but I still kind of have to learn what it means for Lily. Of course, I was Lily the whole time, but you know, it's different. undeniably. It's change. I'm learning the ropes again. I'm learning honesty. I'm learning doing this because I want to do it, because I have something to say. Art is complicated, and I see this as art, even if it's also somewhat analysis, whatever. This is art. Like, I'm making art right now. Like, that's what's happening. There's a lot of change in my life right now. I just graduated college. I don't really know where I'm going from here. Other than that, I'm being intentional about YouTube again. I'm taking my writing more seriously, and I'm hoping to turn these things into a full career, because my degree in screenwriting isn't gonna get me very far in the Midwest. But I'm living. I'm making choices. I'm being a complete person, and I'm in some ways choosing change. I'm speaking up for myself. I'm making some selfish decisions in a good way. As I come to understand myself better and better, I'm telling people about it, letting people in, letting practically everyone in, to an almost dangerous degree, but you know, whatever. It's who I am as a person. I'm becoming who I have always wanted to be as a person. I'm becoming someone so much cooler. I love myself. It's hard to say that, honestly. These days, I've gotten back into a rut of like, who am I? What am I doing? Look at all these mistakes. I'm wasting so much time, but I love myself because I'm doing what I love. You're listening, presumably, and I'm making art. I'm talking about the art I love. I'm doing the thing. I'm talking about Toy Story, and I love myself, and I'm doing it in front of an audience. Like, what is there to complain about? Nothing. Literally nothing. I challenge you to do the hard thing, the thing that comes out of left field but you feel pulled to. Even if it's something you've always been scared of, even if you think it'll be perceived as selfish, good. Because ultimately, you can't be selfless until you love yourself, until you take care of your needs and your desires. Selflessness is not a surrender of pleasure. It's not a surrender of the good. It's not a surrender of an exciting life. People will try to tell you it isn't. Religions will try to tell you that selflessness is giving up what makes life fun and happy and wonderful, but it very much so isn't. You need that to fuel your love of other people, to fuel your place in the world. It's a harmonious, symbiotic relationship. The fun, the good, the selfish, the selfless. And it's something that with time, you can really learn to navigate. I have, kind of, again, in progress, but challenge yourself. Really, really challenge yourself to tell people what you need, to advocate for yourself, and to not only accept change, but to choose it. Boom. That's a video for those of you who are unfamiliar with the concept. Thank you guys so much for watching. I am so excited to be back. I truly love nothing more than sitting in front of the camera and doing this kind of thing. If you're new here, which welcome, don't forget to subscribe, like, and comment down below. Tell me you're new. I'll say hi, I promise. Leave me some suggestions. Critique the ranking if you paused and looked at that, because again, it's kind of what this video once was. Give me suggestions, ideas. I want to talk about pop culture. I want to talk about my transition. I want to talk about all elements of my life. So if there's something you feel like you'd like to hear me talk about, let me know, because I'm actively looking for ideas. Again, thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you for everything, for being a friend in me. And yeah, I think that's it. Love you guys so much. Bye.